Welcome back to Trailblaze. I'm your host, Nayara Hawk, joined by my dear friend,
Jamal Simmons. How you doing, Nayara?
It's good to be back. Thanksgiving was something. It was restful, it was healing, and I feel like I finally processed the weight of what is happening in our country.
Now, did I hear or understand that you took a road trip or you did not take a road trip? What happened?
So that was yours. You're the road tripper.
I took a road trip for sure. But did you make some change in your normal Thanksgiving engagement?
We
Something
did.
happened.
So for about 13 years, we've been going to my in-laws in California, flying 5 hours and then driving a few more hours depending on which sibling was hosting. And my husband is the cook in the family. And so he would literally do all that travel with 2 kids and then cook for everybody. And he was just like, I'm not doing that this year. And so I supported that. And the family understood it too. And he's like, I'm just not doing that. And so we started our own, what hopefully will be our own tradition here, where everybody is welcome. But yeah, just us hosting in our house.
Though here's my question for you. The other question about, go ahead.
Big Thanksgiving question. Sweet potato pie, pumpkin pie. Which one?
Oh, sweet potato for sure. I haven't seen a pumpkin pie in ever outside of like work or school.
Yeah, like that's, I had 2 by myself over the last couple of days.
All right, so here's my big Thanksgiving question. Oh, I believe you. Let me tell you something. If I had a sweet potato pie in this house right now, I'd be eating it while we were having this conversation. My big Thanksgiving question is: pilgrims or no pilgrims? Do you guys do like the pilgrim story at your Thanksgiving table?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, exactly. You know, when was the last time I talked about the pilgrims? Elementary school.
Yeah,
I don't think we've ever really discussed the pilgrims at Thanksgiving. It's not really about the pilgrims and the whole holiday anymore, for at least not in my family.
No,
it's like, what are we thankful for regardless, everything else that we're thankful for.
That's what allows me to love Thanksgiving as a tradition is family togetherness, food, traditional cultural foods that were meaningful, everybody chipping in and trying to do their part and not having to worry about gifts, no consumerism, right? None of the stress of having to buy the right thing and package it.
The gift is food, right? The gift is like if somebody shows up and they're like, I brought you a cake, I brought you a pie, I brought you a bean casserole or whatever it is. It may be their particular.
Well, the gift is time and presence, right? There was a no phones rule. Everybody actually just had to be present and helping and supporting each other. That's part of what made it lovely because we have many phone addicts in my family. Yeah. The other thing,
Am I looking at one of the phone addicts?
Yes, I'm actually I have toned it down significantly, which has been a hit to my own social media presence, but I'll take that hit for what it means in actually modeling for my children what it means to talk to them and engage with them. And they're actually why we don't talk about pilgrims. My kid the 8-year-old did actually ask. He's like, so what was the deal with the first Thanksgiving? And literally said it like that. What was the deal with the first Thanksgiving? I said, well, these folks came from England because they weren't able to practice their religion there, though they wanted to. And then they came to this place and they had no idea about the weather, how cold it was, how to grow anything on the land. And they learned that from the folks who already lived here, the natives. And that's why some of these foods like corn and turkey, this is how it comes into the tradition because they learned that from the natives. I said, and there were some days in which they had some feasting and were able to get along. I said, but the reality is they were the new
That's
people
not how the story
and
ends.
and they took over the land from the people who already lived here. I said, so this is a moment. There are moments that are good, but that was a broader history is they took over the land. And he's like, got it.
That was just the teaser. That was just the teaser to the movie. That's not, all of a sudden you're sitting there watching that movie, you're like, whoa, this thing went dark. This thing
and
took
my
a
mom,
turn.
who used to be a first and second grade teacher, she's like, well, what do you mean? The kids don't make, little pilgrim hats and the feathers anymore. I'm like, no, they don't do that. And that's okay. Really, it's okay.
No, it's fun. So the other question about Thanksgiving is cranberry sauce, homemade or out of the can?
Hands down homemade. Now that's the one thing I do make.
Oh, come on.
Hands down homemade.
There is no cranberry sauce better than that cranberry sauce that comes out of the can. The little jelly.
You like sugar and jelly. That's all it is. There's no flavor.
Absolutely.
You like sugar and jelly. Anyway. Got it. But
you had a highfalutin Thanksgiving. Flavor.
And of course, mac and cheese. I didn't realize that there are people out there who don't think mac and cheese is a Thanksgiving dish.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
No,
I don't,
you gotta have,
yeah.
no.
Apparently that's the thing. There are
I'm
people
there
who
for
don't
the
think it's a
mac and
Thanksgiving
cheese.
dish.
I'm there for the dressing, and then everything, and kind of the cranberry sauce and everything else, and the pie, and everything else is sort of extra for me. But yeah.
Pie.
All right. So we've been doing Thanksgiving for a minute. Listen, there's been a lot happening also this week while everybody was kind of enjoying their Thanksgiving and post Thanksgiving food coma. And now it appears two big stories. The defense secretary nominee Hegseth is just getting pilloried, including an email from his mother, which I want to get into with you because that's
which
like
is
talk
such
about going
a
negative.
Great Thanksgiving story is right. The idea that drama comes up around your family. Like, I have no idea. I want to know what his Thanksgiving was like, given that his mom tore him apart in email.
Let's just do it now. So Hegseth, who, for those of you who are, I'm sure if you're listening to this, you know a lot about what's happening, but Hegseth is the former Fox News TV host. He served in the military a long time ago. He has what appear to be white supremacist tattoos all over his body. And he is the nominee for defense secretary for the United States of America, and thinks women should not serve in combat, even though there are lots of women who are in combat. And obviously, with a white supremacist appearing to be white supremacist tattoos on its body, a military force that is 43% people of color. So that will make for great morale, I would imagine, in the military if this guy becomes DOD secretary.
Which happens to be the largest employer in the country, right? The U.S. military.
3 million people. I think over 3 million, 3.2 million people.
Oh, and then add on the military installations, right? The operations, all of that, all the extent, the contractors, right? It is the largest employer in the country. Largest employer in the country. So what you should do then is put somebody who is served honorably and then became a Fox TV host, a weekend anchor. And that would be somebody who understands how to manage the budgets. But what we find out, which is just of course, as this stuff with the Trump nominees, it's just fascinating to see the personal side of these individuals, is that his own mother wrote him an email telling him that he was an abuser of women and a bad person, and that it pained her to say this. And she didn't want to hear him gaslighting her. She didn't want to hear his responses, but she, as a woman, needed to tell him that the way he was treating his ex-wife and what that was doing to his children was terrible, and that it's not the first time, that she doesn't understand how this happened and how she ended up raising a son like this. It was the ultimate, son, I'm disappointed in you. And so I read the whole thing from beginning to end.
Yeah, so the substance of it is dark, right?
But I thought about it. I'm like, what, as a mom, what would lead me to write that letter?
Yeah,
and that has to be some pretty dark shit for me as a mother to say that to my kid.
The substance is so bad that as a parent, and you're a mom, so it's even the bond is even, got a deeper thing to it. As a parent, to go after your kid in such a really personal way and detailed way about his behavior, it just feels like it must have been so much worse than what she said in the letter. Because it must have been so much worse.
Because the way it was written also had that very, I'm trying my best to be proper, right?
And to love you, right? I still love you. I want you to be helpful. Yes. I want to be helpful to you. I'm not doing this to condemn you. I'm doing this because I want you to get help.
It's not an abusive screed, right? I just want to be clear about that. It was thought out. It was using all the adult words and checking her own emotion. You didn't hear her own emotion as much as you heard logic of, you need to understand this is who you are, and only your mother can get through to you at this point, because everybody else around you has distanced themselves for you. And by the way, this is why you keep losing your wife in relationships. And I mean, it was just, only a mother could say that, but to be driven as a mother to say that. And on the receiving end, listen, I got into it with my parents over the years. We have sent a whole bunch of stuff back and forth, nothing to that level of which it was I need to tell you, you are being a bad person right now. They disagreed with decisions, but never fundamentally questioned who I was or what, like that's some dark, deep shit, but it is also very, very telling. And I know that personal emails, those are, the privacy of your own diary type thing should be respected. But
Do
But
we know how
when
we
you are
got
running, when you're trying to get one of the highest, most powerful positions in the country, you are opening yourself up to public scrutiny. That is part
do
of the
we
job.
do we know how we got a hold of this email?
No,
What's the
I didn't bother to
backstory
check.
on the email?
I
I'm
mean,
curious about that. Maybe it was in his divorce proceedings, right? Like maybe
but
there was
but it.
some kind of
Oh,
discovery that existed other than this particular moment. Because the
hmm.
mother has said since then that she's her son and she doesn't, that was the moment in time. And she kind of tried to like soften and walk it back a little bit. So I
But none
don't
of them
think the
deny that it
mother was the
happened.
source.
They
Yeah,
they
but I don't
never
think the
denied that
mother
it
was the
happened.
source of the email.
No,
I don't think she was the
no.
source of the email. I think the question is though, who is it that dropped? Maybe it was the ex-wife. Maybe she had access to the email at some point. But somebody dropped this email like a big hefty dime on this guy in the middle of
So here's
his
what you'll hear,
process.
right? In some of these moments when the bros come to the defense, it's like, well, if everybody's got challenges and issues, and we all grow and we all learn from our mistakes, and there's so
Sure,
many people,
absolutely.
divorce is 50% of the country. All of that agreed. Number one, that doesn't mean that you should be qualified to be the Secretary of Defense or running and being a leader for a multi-million force that is critical to the United States defense, number one. And number two, there are so many men who were not abusers of women. All of these
Yeah,
other
and
people
look,
who've been confirmed, all these other people serving in positions don't have this type of record where their mom has sent an email, or they're then on top of that making that policy, right? The part of why this is interesting to me is that it shows his personal behavior is reflective of how he would run the military and his professional views. They're both deeply, deeply connected. It's part of the same person.
yeah, what would have been more? I mean, you could imagine if a mother and like parents and spouses get to be close over the course of time, they
Mm-hmm.
become family, right? And so you split up, and that means that you don't just split up your marriage, you split up your families, right? All the families split up. You could imagine the mother writing a letter to her son saying, I'm really disappointed in the way you handle this relationship. I'm really like disappointed in the way that you behaved. This is out of character for you,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
I didn't raise you to be that way. I don't know, you haven't, really behaved this way in the past. What else is going on with you that we need to discuss? Like, can you come and like, let's have, you could imagine a variety of ways she could have expressed her disappointment in him for making bad decisions
Mm-hmm.
and bad behavior that didn't also condemn him kind of like from puberty on as
Yes.
somebody who was treated women badly. So I
She
think,
was talking about a
that's something.
pattern of behavior and not a moment in
Yeah.
time. And that pattern of behavior of how he views women, and has been abusive, according to his mother, but also, as we can see, as a misogynist in public life, that is a pattern of behavior that will now reflect in how he manages a diverse, multiracial force, like the largest government employer. He would now be responsible for that. I do, since we've been talking about parents and how parents and the power and positions, I want your thoughts on Biden doing what he said he never would, which is pardoning his own son, Hunter Biden.
Yeah, so this is topic number 2, right? We want to talk about what happened with President Biden pardoning Hunter. And what I have to say is, bravo. I am glad that this man bossed up and took care of his kid and pardoned him. You may disagree with me. Pardoned him because the rules have changed, and the only people who are paying attention, in my opinion, the Democrats who are paying attention to us getting back to regular order about the rules have missed the boat. That in fact, the rules have changed, the world is different, and we have got to protect ourselves and do what we can to get outcomes. Now, the press, I think the press should mark it, right? Because the president said something. It wasn't, he either he changed his mind or he didn't tell the truth at the time. And so we need to mark the fact. History needs to know that we all recognize that Joe Biden, changed his mind or changed his position on this. But come on, like someone wrote that this makes Hunter Biden above the law. Joe Biden said nobody should be above the law. You know who's above the law? The former president of the United States, who got convicted of 34 felonies, and we are not even going to have a sentencing hearing because he got elected president of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
You know who's above the law? A Supreme Court justice who will not take ethics exceptions while he's ruling on cases that his wife is a part of, and he's taking money gifts from a real estate mogul who is basically trying to buy favor with this guy and putting his family through school and doing all sorts of things. Those guys are above the law. I just think being worried about Hunter Biden is not the place where I would start my outrage.
I do feel it, right? The idea that he's got nobody left, right? His other son has died, right? His first wife, the mother of his children passed away. And he's now looking down the barrel. This is the last way I can save my son. He's already been convicted. Yeah. He's already been punished publicly and shamed. I can save my son. I get
and he's
that.
82 years old, right? So that means like, this is like the last act of his life. And literally like the last like chapters, right, of his life. Mm-hmm. And I imagine if you're looking at your kid and you're saying, there's one more thing I can do for my kid, you know, even if it's going to cost me.
Yeah, this is where it gets hard for me, though. This is where I start like, I can give you President of the United States who wants to make sure his family is taken care of. I can give you that. There's a whole lot of other people have been trying to take care of their families right now, whether it's Palestinians that you could care about their lives equally, or whether it's other people who have been in the queue, in the list of pardons. Fix that. You are a lame duck president who literally has nothing left to lose, right? Do make the big swings with the power you have left. And we don't see that happening. We see him doing exactly what a Trump would do, which is just take care of me and mine. And that's the part where we are supposed to be upholders of taking care of each other. So okay, let's see. There's like 2 months left. Pardon a whole bunch of other people. Use the power for that. Because here's what Trump did at the same time. Trump pardoned his father-in-law, pardoned his
daughter's father-in-law. Daughter's father-in-law.
Jared Kushner's dad.
And his daughter's, right. Actually, he pardoned.
Jared Kushner. So he pardoned daughter's father-in-law. Jared's dad gets pardoned and then appointed to the ambassador to France. He not only gets absolved of what have been considered crimes, he then gets a gift. Let me elevate you on behalf of the United States, not just the Trump family. And he takes his daughter's father-in-law and says, and you, sir, because you happen to be of Lebanese descent, you're going to be a Middle East advisor. Right. That's what it looks like to take care of your family. It's putting them in charge of deeply, deeply important stuff in this country. And so I need Biden on behalf of Democrats and everybody else to be a little different than that. So take the big swings.
But he is different, right? Because he didn't put Hunter Biden in charge of like some sort of policy effort. He just said, my kid's not going to go to jail and you're not going to prosecute him and persecute him, as they've indicated they're going to continue to go after Hunter Biden if there are more things to go after. And he doesn't want to leave Biden, his son's fate, up to these people so that they could be the ones who could continue to go after him after he leaves office and maybe even after.
No, what he also saying is that I don't believe strongly enough that Palestinian lives matter equally. And I don't believe strongly enough that all of these people who were wrongfully convicted or who there are cases that were decided when the laws were different, that they don't weigh on his mind the same way as his own family does. And I get it. My family weighs on me more than so many other things in my life. I'm not president of the United States. So do something with it.
So here's what I would do. If I was in the White House today or this weekend and I got this note, the president wanted to pardon Hunter. Okay, fine. So let the president pardon Hunter on Sunday. Everybody will like kiki about it all day Monday. First thing Tuesday morning, 100 pardons.
Yep.
Right? Let's just take a whole block. Let's just like wipe out an entire category on the list and 100 pardons of regular people with no last names that we know.
Marijuana convictions.
And get them out. That's right.
Marijuana convictions. That's an easy one. There is a whole list of federal marijuana convictions. Knock that out. That would set up not only him,
100 people, 1,000 people, whatever the number is. Like
Democrats in general will be the party that gets it, like that party that gets what real life is like right now. Because right now what it looks like is Trump has totally dug in and leaned into this is what cronyism and taking care of your own and just being powerful looks like, which a lot of people expect and understand and respect that. The Democrats then have to be the party that gets what real people in real life is like right now. And you can't do that if you're pretending the rules are still the same.
Right.
Marijuana is not the drug of threat that it was presented to be in the 1980s. Right. And Biden did make moves to start pardoning and trying to fix the legal structure around that. Do it. Go big. Again, not going to make an impact on him at this point. Do something for other people.
Yeah, and pick whatever category it is of federal law. Listen, one of the things that helped Donald Trump when he was running for president was he pardoned some people like, I don't know, Lil Wayne and Kwame Kilpatrick.
Oh my God, that was hilarious. That's right. Yeah. A
couple other folks before he left. The celebrity bigwigs before he left office. Even Kim Kardashian's friend, the woman who deserved it, the African American woman who got out. But it was for Kim Kardashian. It wasn't for that woman. And so, but those actors then went around and told people like, Trump pardon me, he got me out of jail. You know, the Justice Department, Kwame Kilpatrick, who's a friend of mine, known Kwame my entire life, went to high school together. Kwame Kilpatrick, yes, Kwame Kilpatrick has been going around on the internet saying Democratic Justice Departments go after Black officials. Trump is the one who is pardoned me. So he uses his own case, which happened during the Obama administration, and then he uses the case of Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, who is being pursued by the Biden DOJ as the second case. So Democrats, Biden and Obama, go after Black mayors. Trump pardons them. That he was doing all over the internet during the election. So, you know,
and we can argue,
let's get belly up. Let's get in the argument. Right.
Yeah, the numbers show this, the numbers show that. And this is where Democrats lose the message when they talk about, oh, but the numbers and really the data says, and really this is what it's like. Like, no. These are personal anecdotes. You have to combat personal anecdotes and emotional stories with other personal anecdotes and emotional stories.
Absolutely.
So what is your counterpoint to that?
And in the same place, right? It's on TikTok. It's on Instagram. It's not on a TV ad talking about it on The View. It's on places where people are, you know, getting that information. So I agree with you. I think they need to do more than just take care of Hunter. But I also think as Democrats and progressives and people who are on the left side of the ledger, that the rules have changed. And we are not living, it's not 2015 anymore. We don't all live by if Nikki Haley or Marco Rubio or Mitt Romney was going to be president, maybe Joe Biden would have had some confidence that, you know, maybe some of this might have worked out and they might have at least had a fair process. Yeah. We talk about Kash Patel as the head of the Justice Department and Pam Bondi. And, you know, he tried to get Matt Gaetz. Trump has declared war on regular order.
Yeah.
We gotta respond. We gotta recognize this is what's happening.
We knew this. This is the thing.
But do we know it? But do we really know it though, Nayyera? Do we know it in our spirits?
You and I know
this.
We know this was a known quantity heading into coming out of Trump 1. And the Biden administration instead decided they were going to norm themselves back to the way things were. It was just a different version of MAGA, which is let's rewind the clock. Let's get back to the way things were instead of recognizing the disruptive opportunity to make big swings for many, many people that were outside of the way things have always been done. And Trump's version of the way things have always been done won out. And I'm not surprised about that because Trump's version of the way things have always been done felt like it was empowering individuals to get their own power and do whatever it is they wanted to do. That's what it felt like to people.
Yeah, for sure. Before we go,
that's the feeling that needs to change.
Do you have a feeling about, or do you have an impression, a thought about Kash Patel before we go?
Many. Least of all that, you know, the tradition of bipartisan serving FBI officials is gone. The idea that somebody who has actually been in law enforcement, because a prosecutor, a lawyer, is not the same as law enforcement. And again, these agencies need people at the top who understand what the workforce is dealing with. It's not just about what they're implementing for everybody else, but you need to protect the workforce and represent them and help them through whatever the next 4 years. Kash Patel doesn't understand that. But the worst part, right, is that it's turning it into, again, that fear agent, the agency of fear that was going after individuals and communities that the government just didn't like, right? The FBI of COINTELPRO. Kash Patel's like, oh, I like that example. Let me go do that.
Yep.
Here's my whole list. We'll start with this. These are the types of people we don't like, and we're going to investigate them. And again, it's rewinding the clock in a way that we were supposed to have gotten past and gotten better.
Absolutely. I don't talk about this a lot, but my grandfather was a labor lawyer in the 1930s and 40s. And he was pursued by the FBI, ended up having to appear before the House Un-American Activities Committee for suspicion of communist ties. And so my uncle, my dad's oldest brother, could tell stories about FBI agents following him to elementary school when he was 9 years old. Following him to elementary school to try to prove that, I don't know what they were trying to prove with like the 9-year-old, kid going to school. And then my dad, who was a civil rights activist and anti-war activist in the 60s and early 70s, he was followed by the police forces and by the FBI and everybody because he was, one of these activists that they didn't like. And so when you talk about like COINTELPRO and what they did to Dr. King and the Black Panthers and, fomenting violence between different factions politically, and then Richard Nixon with his enemies list and being willing to use ex-CIA agents to, conduct the Watergate break-in. And it's not that long ago, right? That was 1972, 73. Like, though, this is not that long ago. And so the FBI, for most of its existence, was a domestic spy agency for the most part that was being used for domestic political purposes. And it's only been the last few decades that it's at least had the semblance of fairness. I mean, I think there are a lot of Black politicians who would say the FBI still targets Black politicians more than they target other people and politicians of color.
But this is what Trump tapped into, right? This sense that people have always thought the FBI was not wielded fairly. It was wielded for the people in power.
But we've corralled it, and I think there have been rules around it, including the 10-year term for the director, which he wants to get rid of. And so my point is this: if we let the genie back out of this bottle, it's going to be very hard to get it back in the bottle. And this is one of these things. Look, I think Hegseth would be bad as DOD for all the reasons. FBI director is something that if we put somebody who is just a political hack who wants to pursue the president's enemies in charge of that place, it's going to be, it may be never that we get this back. It may be never. It'll at least be years. Lives will be ruined. People will be destroyed. The country will be a very different place. And I just think, I hope these Republican senators are just taking this into account.
And this is where the responsibility is.
I'll finish here. Donald Trump, his enemies today are a bunch of Democrats, but his enemies tomorrow could also include Republicans. He let Mike Pence get threatened to be hung at the Capitol, his vice president. What makes them think he won't sick the FBI on these members and senators?
Well, here's why we're not the enemies, because we've accepted that he's president. He still had officially never accepted that Biden won. We've accepted this. We're like, got it. You won.
Well, it's the enemies of who, right? The enemies of the Constitution or the enemies of him personally?
Yes.
That's the problem. He's not going after the enemies of the state.
I could tell you ins and outs of different constitutional law and how it could apply in a variety of different scenarios. Donald Trump, I'm not sitting here being like, oh, we need to go after him. He won. Got it. Hair's breadth in the final popular vote, but he won. The Republican senators now, really, it's up to them to see if they are the ones who are going to uphold this idea of what is credible executive branch function versus allowing Trump as a president to do whatever it is Trump wants to do, which is very different than what is good for the country. This is the difference between campaigning and governance. Say what you want during the campaign, but governing is for everybody in the country, even the people who didn't show up to vote. And that is a much, much harder proposition. We'll see. That's where we're at, Jamal. Looking forward to talking with you after whatever the crazy happens this week.
I know. All right. Well, I'm glad we're back, and we will talk to y'all soon.